Tonight on Cosmic Cantina, strap in, because we're about to penetrate the Clavius. That's right, that moist lunar crater. With the recent NASA announcement of the water on the moon, we want to find out what the hell else is going on up there. But how can we see what's going on around the dark side? 2 words, remote viewing. So dust off your craters, because we're touching down. I'm your host, Melissa Tittle, and every week I go to my favorite bar, Cosmic Cantina, and kick back with my co-hosts, Josh Golombeski and Matt O'Connor. We talk about aliens, Bigfoot, ghosts, ancient cultures, and anything from the unseen world that needs a little illumination. Welcome to Cosmic Cantina. I'm your host, Melissa Tittle, and tonight I'm drinking a classy organic red wine from Spain. Matt?
Ooh, organic. I too am drinking red wine, and it's from Italy, and it's called Sheep Thrills.
Ooh.
Whoa, kinky.
It's a blend. It's tasty. It's sweet, and it's
Nice.
Sheepy.
Yeah, anyway, it's sheepy.
Okay.
Yeah. Pulling wool out of my teeth. It's gross.
Oh, gross. Okay, Josh, let me guess. You're drinking...
Well, I have big news to say. I officially broke up with Ghostfish in the last 2 weeks. I just had a... you know what? You can't love someone enough and they don't love you back. At some point, you got to let them go, you know? It got a little one-sided. It got a little creepy, you know? I didn't know if a restraining order was coming down the pipeline. Probably sent one too many messages on social media, but no, Ghostfish, you are dead to me.
Wow.
I still love you. I mean, you know, you're still awesome. You're still my first love for beer. But now, tonight, I'm drinking a woodchuck hard cider called a Prosecco. It tastes like a apple cider Prosecco. It's actually really good.
Yeah, those are good. Yeah,
bubbly, dry cider. Yeah, it's going down well in my mouth.
And it's gluten-free. It's just not Ghostfish.
100%. Don't worry. Yeah.
Ghostfish was like that blonde new girl in 5th grade, and you just really wanted to date her, but she didn't give you the time of day, and then you just went for the brunette because it was easier.
Are you saying I've settled? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying you're
settled.
settling. You settled. You settled.
Yeah.
I am devastated.
But you can still smell it on your fingers.
I'm holding it together.
Oh my God! Matt! Okay, enough.
No, sometimes you spill.
Oh.
We're talking beer, right?
Oh, okay, we're getting to the article. You
Yeah.
guys, we have a serious show today.
All right.
I'm just moving on. All right, so, big announcement. NASA has announced water on the moon. They confirm water molecules on our neighbor's sunny surface. NASA has confirmed the presence of water on the moon's sunlit surface, a breakthrough that suggests the chemical compound that is vital to life on Earth could be distributed across more parts of the lunar surface than the ice that has previously been found in dark and cold areas. The discovery comes from the Space Agency's Stratospheric Observatory for Infrared Astronomy. It's called SOFIA, which is interesting. If anybody knows what Sophia is the goddess of knowledge from Gnosticism, from Greek mythology. Anyway, let me get back into the story. I don't want to do into a tangent too far.
Yeah. Very tangent.
Tangent, right. The water molecules were found in the Clavius crater, a large crater in the moon's southern hemisphere. Quote from NASA, they say, data from this location reveal water in concentrations of 100 to 412 parts per million, roughly equivalent to a 12-ounce bottle of water, trapped in a cubic meter of soil spread across the lunar surface. This is not
I hate it when
puddles of
water gets stuck in my clevis, to be honest. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Do you use some of those wipes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do.
Okay. All right, great. Okay, so moving on. Experts will now try to figure out exactly how the water came to form and why it persists. NASA scientists published their findings in the latest issue of Nature Astronomy. And they say, without a thick atmosphere, water on the sunlit lunar surface should just be lost to space. Yet somehow, we're seeing it. Something is generating the water, and something must be trapping it there. So, it's pretty interesting. Where is this water coming from? How is it still on the surface? So there's more to that. So this whole show is about the moon, and there's so many theories about the moon. There's so many theories about the dark side of the moon, which we're going to get into. Could there be aliens on the surface of the moon? What are the ancient connections with the moon and the Earth? And then, of course, there's all this speculation of did they actually do the moon landing, which isn't really this show, but we're going to get into all sorts of weird stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are.
Speaking of the moon landing, there is a forgotten astronaut in the famous Apollo 11 moon landing with Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, and that's Michael Collins. Has anybody heard of Michael Collins? I feel so sorry for this guy.
Michael Collins.
MC.
Collins.
Yeah.
He was the one flying the actual module that, he had to hold the module up in space so that they could, they took their module down and they landed their pod on the surface, and then he had to go around the Earth, he had to go around the moon several times, around the dark side of the moon, of which he was orbiting, I think, by himself for 27 hours and 45 minutes. Every time he hit the dark side of the moon, he was 45 minutes. He had no connection. He had no connection with Buzz and Neil Armstrong. He had no connection back home to NASA. So he was 45 minutes by himself. His job was to take pictures of the dark side of the moon. Obviously, they wanted to know what was behind there. And Collins is a little bit of a weird character. He's gotten in a lot of Twitter debates with people recently, saying that people are saying, well, there must be aliens on the moon, and he kind of debates them, but he says it in such a strange way. I don't have all of his quotes. You can look it up. We can kind of post it on our site so you can check it out. He says that we are not alone, but he's like, even if we were in a simulated universe, there's no way that they would just make one prototype. Such a weird answer.
Cryptic.
It was such a weird answer to somebody saying to him, "Oh, you must, confirm. Like we're definitely not alone, right? Just general Twitter question." And that was his answer.
Interesting.
We can't be the only prototype, but anyway.
Yeah. And he's talking about simulated realities. Well, I mean, that guy definitely fucks. He was doing all the heavy lifting on that tour.
Yeah, imagine being alone for that long.
Oh, dude, I'd just be sweating bullets waiting for it to come back around the other side again.
He's like,
movie, yeah.
43 minutes, 44 minutes, 45 minutes. Okay, hi, hello.
Oh, yeah. No, we should listen to what this guy says. I mean, that's some deep shit. He was obviously rapping like simulation theory and the quantum field and saying a bunch of shit at once. He just went deep. He just was like, you guys want to know about aliens? I'm going to tell you the secret to life plus aliens. Yeah. This guy's hardcore.
Everybody was like, what do you mean? So there's been a lot of people that have taken the images that he has taken for NASA of the dark side of the moon, and they've analyzed them, right? So this is tons of conspiracies and people like finding like weird shaped rocks that are like have sharp angles. They have like reflective surfaces. I mean, this isn't new stuff, but I mean, we definitely post this stuff on our website and you can check it out. But conspiracy theorists said that objects seem to be very reflective but have dark black areas that have a lot of right angles and appear to be structures on the dark side of the moon. These are all the images that Michael Collins took when he did his orbit. Some of the objects were white reflective roofs or buildings that had openings that allow ships to come and go. Okay, well, that's speculation. But
that's what the picture proved. It's like a flimsy.
It was like a large hangar. I saw it. There's definitely a ship in there. But they are interesting. They are strange-looking rocks. Just a side tangent a little bit. We've talked about this guy a couple times on our podcast. We have a guy who has a show on Gaia called Matthias De Stefano. The show's called Initiation. And there's one episode that he explains that the moon at one point crashed into the Earth and brought with it water. So he doesn't really explain how that works. I mean, that sounds like an ancient mythology, but it is interesting that in the southern part of the moon, and the crater is where they found these molecules of water. So I know it's a huge leap. I went from people discovering hangars on the on the dark side of the moon to at one point the moon crashed into the Earth and brought the water. I know it's crazy.
You went from 0 to 60 real fast. That was awesome. Science, crazy town.
I don't think anyone's mistaking us for like a factual based podcast at any time soon. But yeah,
we're supposed to speculate, people.
I just want to, I don't want to give out all the opinions out there. But when I was talking to Josh before this podcast, because sometimes we do a lot of research on our own. We don't even talk to each other before the podcast. Josh actually found another ancient connection to the exact same story that I'm talking about. So maybe I'm not so crazy about the moon crashed into the Earth.
No, we got some evidence to back you up. From what I read, that the Zulu legend, the South African tribe, really big, really badass, who've been around for a very long time, they actually remember a time before there was a moon, which is super, super interesting. Their legend goes like this. They think the moon was placed in orbit by two brothers, Wuan and Mpanku, Mpanku, who had scaly...
Have another go.
I tried. I butchered it. I've offended people around the world.
Wait, could you say that again, please?
Mapanku. I don't fucking... Jesus.
Oh, actually, that was probably pretty good.
You probably nailed it. That's
Confidence is back.
Confidence is back, yeah. All right, these brothers, whose names I will not pronounce again, had scaly, reptilian-like skin. They stole the planet from a great fire dragon, which is probably a star, and they brought it to Earth. At the time, though, this is what connects to what Melissa's saying, is Earth was they described it as like a watery mist covered in this like watery sheath and very primordial and thunderstorms and just like this epically moist planet. Insert joke there. Sorry. Hey! So when the moon was moved into orbit with the Earth, just like we know today, it controls the tides. It settled the planet in some way, and because of the gravitational pull and science I can't understand, settled the planet down and made it more habitable. If that's a word, I think it's a word. Today, so I thought that could connect to you a little bit, Melissa. I think it was really interesting. I thought that was cool.
See,
yeah. Apparently, it used to spin. Millions of years ago, it used to spin faster, and the Earth was able to see the dark side of the moon. But as it sort of came into the Earth's gravitational field, the pull, it stuck to a very slower rotation, and we only ever see that one side of the moon. I watched a video on it today.
Kind of with us.
Because it's a hollow moon. It's a satellite. It was placed there by aliens, right?
Obviously. Yes.
Duh. Well, that's where I'm going. Well, what is the official explanation for the moon before you go on, Melissa? It's that science's best guess is that a Mars-like planet size collided with Earth and formed the moon. That's what the science says. But I have some crazy shit I'll get into in a second.
Wait, so that's not so far from ancient Zulu tribal members and Matthias. You know, there may be some truth to that.
Yeah.
It was a collision. Yeah.
There was a collision.
Yeah.
All right.
Everyone's right, slightly.
Okay. So in the first 10 minutes of this podcast, we have literally thrown out 20 million different theories for the moon. But let's get into another crazy one. All right, Josh, go.
Well, okay, I'm just getting started. A couple quick things before I get into a remote viewing story. It's going to get weirder. We're going to start using remote viewing as proof to what's going on the moon. But I think there's a reason why people aren't seeing many buildings, why the pictures aren't really showing anything. It's kind of ambiguous. People want to believe there's a building there because the remote viewing session I got into, that I read about this group, suggests that everything's underground. But before I get there, have you guys ever heard of... I mean, what are we talking about? This is all called spaceship moon theory, which is a theory proposed by two Soviet astronomers in the 1970s who published this hypothesis in a magazine called Sputnik, which is like Russia's Reader's Digest, theorizing that the moon was a hollowed-out spaceship put into our orbit by ETs. They said that in the 70s in a mainstream magazine. Well, I mean, based on a lot of things we're already saying, the incredible coincidence of it. But one of the angles and how it positions and how it blocks the sun perfectly, how it's way bigger than it should be for a moon. It's not really a moon; it's like a planet. It's bigger than most planets in our solar system, or a couple of them at least. There's so many weird things about the moon. But
yeah, a lot of weird measurements that a lot of shit lines up to it. Yeah. I don't know those measurements, so I'm not going to go into it, but yeah.
No, this whole book...
That's a whole nother podcast.
Placed.
It's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. Don't worry, I'm getting to remote viewing and the fun stuff. But there is evidence that the moon might be hollow, which is what people suggest, that the inside's hollowed out. And apparently in the Apollo missions, they used seismic recording devices on the lunar surface. And then when they purposely let something from the spaceship hit really hard and recorded it, and apparently they said it rang like a bell. So the seismic activity reverberated for like several hours at one point. So that suggesting that the moon is a lot less dense, which is really interesting because it's 21,000 miles in diameter. The Earth is 8,000, but the mass of the moon is only 1.2% of Earth, and its volume is only 2% of Earth. Even though it's only like a fourth size of the Earth, those numbers should be much higher. Though later there were more studies done that definitely toned down that first experiment.